So back to the expense form. Here we need to use an interface to define our props. Here we want to have a prop like onSubmit, which is going to be a function that takes some data of type expense form data and returns void. Next, we add the props here. And finally, where we submit the form, instead of using this arrow function, we simply delegate to onSubmit. Okay, now finally, we need to go to the app component and handle the onSubmit event of the expense form. So onSubmit, we get the data. For now, let's just do a console.log to make sure that the plumbing is working. Then we'll come back and add the data to our expenses array. So let's fill out the form with some data and submit. All right, look, we get the expense object in the app component. The final part is updating the state. So back to the app component. First, we rename data to expense. We could also call it new expense. Now, instead of doing a console.log, we call set expenses to. Now, we need to pass a new array with all the items in the existing array. So we spread the expenses array. And of course, we could also use immer, but I want to keep things basic so you master the fundamentals. Now, we need to add a new object in this array. In this object, first, we need to spread all the properties of the new expense. And then we need to add the ID property because the expense object that we get here doesn't have an ID. But earlier, where we declared our state variable, look, each expense has an ID property. So we need to set the ID to, we can use a very simple logic like expenses dot length plus 1. Now, in a real-world application, the IDs are generated on the server. But again, we don't want to worry about those complexities. Our focus right now is on the fundamental concept. Let's test our application one more time. So let's say we went to the movies and we spent $20 on the ticket. Now, this is the category of entertainment. Now, when we submit, look, here's our new expense and the total is updated in real time. Now, one last thing before we finish this lesson. It would be nice to clear the form upon submission. So back to our expense form. This is where we call the form hook. Here we're going to grab the reset function. Now, when submitting the form, instead of just calling the onSubmit function that we receive as a prop, we want to do two things. We want to clear the form and then call the onSubmit function. So just like before, here we pass an arrow function where we get the form data. Now in this function, we call onSubmit with the data and then reset the form like this. Okay, let's test our implementation. So I'm going to fill this out one more time. Submit, and now the form is reset. Beautiful. So I know this was a lot of work. I didn't really expect you to finish the exercise on your own, but I think you learned a lot over the last few videos.